Okay, so for today, we are going to learn about price setting and wage setting. And this is very, very important when it comes to intermediate macroeconomics. You must understand how wages are set and prices are set in an economy. So, how do firms set wages? What are some of the things that they consider when setting wages? And number two, what are some of the things, again, that they consider in setting prices? That's what we're talking about. So wage setting is simply what firms, the process that they take or the things they consider to form wages. Okay. And what are some of the things that in fact, what we can even just say is under wage setting, you are looking at the things that determine wages. Okay. And then under price setting, you're looking at the things that are considered or the things that affect prices in an economy. Okay. So I'm going to start with wages. Okay. Now, under wages, we're going to consider nominal wages. Okay. So nominal wages, just like we have real GDP and nominal GDP, wages can also be nominal and real. So the same definition for nominal. So nominal wages and wages that do not take into account effects of inflation. Then real wage is something that will take into account the aspect of prices. Okay. They take into account the effects of inflation, but we'll look at it. So nominal wage is just W. Then this other one we divide it by price. That's the real real wage. Okay, but for now, let's forget about it and concentrate on the nominal wage. So, how are wages set in an economy? Okay, so when you're looking at wage setting, wages are set by the following. So, wage is equal to PE, then FUZ. Okay. Now, PE simply stands for expected price. Okay. So, what is the price that you are expecting in the future? All right. And what the normal thing to happen is that if there is an expectation, if you're expecting price to go up, then trade unions will begin to obviously bargain for higher wages. Why? Because you know tomorrow prices are going to be high, so you'd love your wages to also be high. So this one has a positive relationship with nominal wages, meaning the higher the expected price, you would expect the nominal wage is likely to increase. Okay, so this PE stands for expected price. Then FUZ simply stands for the function of unemployment, and Z stands for institutional factors. But let me begin with unemployment. Okay, let's say we have 10 people, okay, that are not working, or let's just say a lot of people. Okay, so let's say a lot of people are not working. All of you are unemployed. Okay, what do you think if somebody comes in and tells you, I'm going to be paying you 2,000? You even have a degree. Someone comes and tells you, I'm going to be paying you 2,000, and you've been home the whole time doing nothing for 1 year, looking for a job. No job has been found. Then there are 10 of you looking for employment. Then somebody comes let's say Chewe is the boss. Okay. And Chewe has in mind that I'll be paying a worker 10,000. Then you go into an economy, you find a lot of people that are unemployed, desperate for work. So if people are desperate for work, there are a lot. Their willingness to get a low salary is high, right? So you're going to find that when there are a lot of people, when unemployment is high in an economy, so when unemployment is high, there is less bargaining power for higher wages. So what's going to happen? Wages will do what? Are more likely to fall. Why? Because you can't go and say, hey, me I have a degree, you cannot be paying me 2,000. Somebody will tell you, go. There are a lot of people that want the job, right? So the higher the unemployment, the higher the unemployment, the lower the wage. So this guy here has a negative relationship with wages, meaning when unemployment goes up, wages fall. Okay, I hope that is clear on the unemployment. The Z here stands for institutional factors. Okay, now institutional factors, we are looking at are institutions getting involved in setting wages. Okay, for example, you can talk about, let's start with the government. How can the government, what is the famous thing that the government enters when it comes to wage? What do they set up in a country? Yes, Cheryl. What is the government known for when it comes to wages? What do they normally set up?
The minimum wage laws.
So when the government sets up a minimum wage never comes, never, it always advocates for higher wages, isn't it? So
Yes.
minimum wages, they're always, the government always aims that the people can get as much as possible. So when the government gets involved, so wages can be okay in an economy. When the government gets involved, it means they're coming to raise the wages. Okay? When you're talking about institutional factors, you're also talking about trade unions. Trade unions always advocate for one thing, that is the rise in prices. They never come and say, no, wages are too high. Can you reduce them? Then there's nothing they're doing. Their work is to advocate for higher wages. So this Z here can stand for any institutional factor that can cause wages to rise, or yeah, that can cause wages to rise. So this Z has a positive relationship. So if we didn't have trade unions, if we didn't have the government imposing minimum wage, there will be no rise in the wages. So we are expecting that the higher the institutional factors in an economy, the higher the wages. The higher the unemployment, so unemployment is the one which has a negative relationship. But these are the factors that affect wages. Okay, so when you're considering the wage setting, we are looking at these factors. I hope that is okay. All right, so this is the wage setting. Any question on this one? Okay. Let us now go to the price setting. What are the factors that will affect firms in setting prices? So price setting. So when you're looking at the price setting, it is equal to, we have what is 1 plus mu times W. Now, this W here stands for wages, which is simply this same wage here. Okay, and when you come to the aggregate supply curve and how they derive it and so on, where there's W here, you can replace it with this guy, right? So you can see that whatever will affect wages will have an impact on prices. So now, what is the logic thing that you think will happen to wages? I'll explain this mu. It is the only new thing here, but let's start with wages. Maybe I can start with you, Martha. When wages go up, let's say you're a producer, you are doing business, huh? You're doing business as a producer, Martha. Then the government comes and tells you, start paying workers a higher wage, start paying them more money, meaning wages are increasing, right? What do you think would be the logic thing for you to do? What should happen to your prices? Should you lower prices or raise them? And why?
Um, I think when you lower your wages, you
Mhm.
increase the prices.
No, wages have gone up.
Oh, they're
So,
gonna up.
yes, and then what are wages? Wages are simply what for the firm? They are costs, right? So when costs go up, what should you do to prices?
You also increase the price.
Exactly. So I can say that price has a what? Positive relationship with wages. Meaning when wages go up, prices will also go up, right? Now, what you're seeing here is mu, this here. Mu is called the markup rate. Okay? Markup rate. It is simply the profit, okay, in percentage terms. All right. Now, I'm not going to go into details on this. There's what we call markup based on cost and markup based on price. Okay, but markup based on cost, yeah. But let's do one example here to just see how the markup is done. So the markup, so this is markup rate. So what you're saying there is mu is called markup rate. Okay, so how do you get it? You simply do the following. Okay, So to get the markup, so markup rate is equal to, so we say markup rate. Okay, so let me just say MR, markup rate is equal to markup. So markup will simply be the profit divided by the cost, then times 100. Okay, so now how do you get this guy called markup? The markup is simply it is the difference between what an item is purchased for and what it is sold for. In other ways, it is simply the price, okay, the price that you're selling a product. So the price that you're selling a product minus the price that you bought it at, okay, which is simply the cost, right? So we can say this is just the cost. So at what point price did you buy it at? Then you divide everything by the cost here. Then you multiply by 100. Okay, so let's take an example. So let's say you are selling phones, right? Now you go to the market and order phones. Let's say you order them at 1,000, right? So this is the price at which you buy it at, right? It's your cost, the 1,000. Okay, so you buy it, you buy it at this much, then you go and sell it at 1,500, 1,500. Okay, so it means here you have simply made, so what we're going to do here, selling price minus this, you're selling it at 1,500. So we're going to say 1,500 minus, you bought it at 1,000. So if I was to get here, your markup is 500, right? But here I'm interested in the markup rate. And the markup rate says divide this by what? By the cost, which is how much was it? It was 1,000, right? So what are we going to find? Well, 500 divided by 100, or 1,000, sorry, times 100. What is the answer? These will cancel, cancel, cancel. There one, there two. What's the answer?
50%.
50%, right? So this 50% is what we're calling the markup rate. And it is the one that is here that you're seeing as mu. And you can even see here just by your eyes, right? You buy something at 1,000. You sell it at what? 1,500, right? You've gotten how much here? The profit you've made is 500, right? 500 is what in terms of if you compare it with what you bought it at here. This is simply 50% of this, right? So that's the 50% there. Are we okay with the markup rate? How to calculate it and how it is found? Are we good?
Yes.
All right, so that's how you
Yes, sir.
calculate. All right, so that's how you find the markup rate. So let's be quick and move on to look at another one. So now let's say they tell us to say a store. Okay, so let's say you go to a store and they sell belts for 12 kwacha. Okay, so this is the selling price. So they sell belts at 12 kwacha. All right, and then we are told to say this store adds 6 kwacha. Okay, let me say 6.4 kwacha as markup. So a store sells belts. So they sell the belts at 12 kwacha. Then they were saying they add 6 kwacha as markup. Then they ask you the question, what is the cost of each belt? So what is the cost, right, of each belt? So meaning now they're telling you to at how much did they buy this belt, right? What is the cost of each belt? If you are only given this, so you go to a shop, the selling price is 12 kwacha. They're selling it at 12 kwacha, right? And then they are adding 6.4 as markup. Then they ask you, what is the cost of each belt, right? So remember, what we said is markup, right? Not markup rate, but just markup, right? Markup is equal to what? We said selling price minus, I said minus what? So if this is your selling price, right? Selling
Minus
price
cost.
minus the cost, which you can just
Minus.
say the cost, the price at which you bought it at, which is simply your cost, right? So This is the markup. So now what have I been given? I've been given here the 12 kwacha, which is the selling price. So I've been given the 12 kwacha minus, I don't have the cost, but what I've been given is the markup. They're saying they add 6.4 markup. 6.4 as markup, meaning I can take this guy to the other side and then this one to come here, right? So I can simply say cost is equal to 12 minus 6.4, which means this is 5 point what? 5.6 is the cost. Okay. So that's the simplicity of this. Okay. I hope this is okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, I want us to
Yes, it's clear.
imagine, yeah, so now in the price setting, remember we're still dealing with price setting. In the price setting, we're going to assume something here that the only cost for the firm are wages. Okay, it's just an assumption. Meaning, when we say markup, it will be equal to what? Markup will be equal to, I can say selling price minus what? The cost here, I can put what? Wage. That will be my what? My markup. Is that okay? We're just assuming this, right? Is that okay? So now remember what we
Yes.
said about markup rate. We said markup rate, if I go back, I said markup rate is equal to what? The formula was, we said markup divided by what? Divided by the cost. Which I can say, we said this markup is simply this, right? The selling price, which is just price minus the cost. Cost is this. So we say price minus the cost, then divided by, what is the cost again? It is the wage. That's okay?
Yes.
Hope we're flowing together. Let me just rub off this. Please catch me. Tomorrow we're going to continue on this one here. All right? Now, I want you just to follow me. Now, here we are here, right? So I can simply say markup. If I was to write this is equal to P minus W over W. Now, what are we interested in? We price setting, right? So let's make price the subject of the formula. I cross multiply, right? So it will be P minus W is equal to mu times W, right? And they're multiplying, right? Then I can divide, I can take this one to the other side, right? So I can say P is equal to mu times W minus W, right? Oh, plus now, right? So I can factorize the W. P is equal to what? If I factorize W, it will be W mu plus 1. Okay? If I was to rearrange this, I can simply say this is how it's written in your books, that price is equal to 1 plus mu times W. And this is what we call the price setting. And that's where it comes from. Have you seen it?
Yes, sir. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Bangathenzi so.
So this is it. So this is how prices are set. So now you know what is this W, you know what is the markup rate, simply the profit in terms of percentage. That's all. Now, I want you to, let's marry these two as we close, all right? I'll be having another class in a short while. Remember, what did we say the wage setting is equal to? Let's marry the two because these are going to be, we said wages are equal to what? PE, right? Times the function of
Yes.
what? Mu plus times Z, right? And then
Yes.
we're now saying P is equal to 1 plus mu times W, right? Now, so if I was to rewrite this price for the price setting, it means I can say P is equal to 1 plus mu. What is this? W is what is on top there, right? PE, and then the function of this times this. Okay, now let us look at this. Here, this guy has a what? Negative, right? This one has a positive, and then this has a positive, right? When we're looking at the relationship with wage, right? You remember? When we're starting, eh?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, what do you, so if anything that brings down wages, anything that has a negative relationship with wage, it means it has a negative relationship with what? With price here. Because, for example, if you look at unemployment here, we said when unemployment goes up, what will happen to wages? Wages will fall. Now, when you look at here, this wage here, we said wage has a positive relationship with price, right? Meaning when wage falls, price will also do what? Will also fall. So if wage has got a negative relationship with unemployment, it means price also has a negative relationship with what? With unemployment. We get the point, right? So now, just based on these
Yes, sir.
two, if I get this guy here and I was to form a relationship with this guy here, what relationship is here? It's negative. And this negative relationship between these two guys is what we call what? Under this. This is where this curve comes in. Is it? Okay. So when you draw the Phillips curve, you see the Phillips curve will tell you it's downward sloping, and they'll tell you, I think we have price here and unemployment. Is it this one or this is employment? I've forgotten which one between the two, but this is where the relationships now start to come in. All right. And we're going to now, as we go into the other classes, as we start, you'll now be able to see the relationships between all these variables and so on. And from here now, I'm going to, this is from this, what you're seeing here on the board. This is the whole macroeconomics, just from what we have done here. So please ensure that you know these. When you look at the thing, you're able to tell this is this is this. All those Okun's law and so on, they come from this basic thing that you're seeing here. Okay? Because you're looking at Okun's law, it will talk about output and employment. Okay? So the more people get employed, you'll find that the more people that are employed, wages will go up. When wages go up, it will have an effect on the price level. And when price level changes, firms want to produce more. If you look at the supply curve. So firms will produce more, so more output to be produced in the country, and so on. So all those just under these two. If you understand this guy here, you're all good. So we'll continue in the next class tomorrow. I want you to just look at these factors and so on. Tomorrow, we're going to do what is called the price setting relation and the wage setting relation, where there are diagrams and so on. And then we'll also touch on the natural level of employment, and then also now do the aggregate supply curve and the aggregate demand. Once you do those two, we're going now to introduce the monetary policy and so on, but everything will be based on this guy. So if you miss it here, you won't understand anything. All right, on my point, I'm done for now. I would love to get some questions if I've not understood anything. Any questions?
This is so clear, sir.
You agree, huh?
Yes, this is true. Because when I was reading the notes, to be honest, I was just stuttering. I wasn't even understanding. Even when the lecturer was teaching us,
Hmm.
I was just stuttering just from fear.
Yeah, no, you understand them. So you will see how this will build now to the next one and to the next one. And now when we go back to the questions, you will see how they were simple, because you need to start with the theory first. After you understand this theory, when I bring in the mathematics, trust me, to be walkover. Okay, so we'll build in this. We have got friends, I'm sure, that are still struggling with this, and I'll ensure that I simplify this as much as possible. Okay, so now what we're going to do is